knitting stripes or doing color work in knitting, you might have noticed that when you add a new color in the middle of a row, like in this swatch, you'll be knitting along in one color. In this rose case, you'll be knitting in green, 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 and then you switch to your new color, and it's like, that is where we started knitting in yellow. It's very clearly, it's green stitches, and then right there, we switched to yellow stitches. But if you look down here on this part of the swatch, you'll notice it's all nice and straight. No, aka jogs. So there's a couple ways to avoid jogs in knitting. One way, if you're working flat, is to start your color at the beginning of the row. But in this whole swatch, I added my new color in the very center of the row. So there's a really easy trick for making your knitting what's called jogless, and I'll show you guys that in just a second. This is the left-handed version of this tutorial. The right-handed trick is identical, it's just done, with the opposite hand, but I will make a separate video for right-handed. So let's show you how to do this jogless knitting. And this is a really great technique to learn if you want to do color work in the round, like on a cowl that's worked in the round, or mittens, or a hat that involve color work that you don't want jogs in the middle of, ruining the effect. So right now I'm just knitting to the center of my row. There we go. So I'm in the very center. I'm going to grab my next color, in this case yellow, and just start working it. So you're thinking, isn't this exactly how you end up with those jogs in your color work? Yes, but in just a second I'll show you how to make that jog invisible. So we've switched to my second color, the yellow here, and knit half the row in that. Now we're going to come back in the next row, or if you're working in the round, the next round, and when you get to the very first stitch you worked in your second color, in this case yellow, when you get to that very first stitch you did, which you can see right here, you are going to slip it onto the other needle purlwise, and then you are just going to keep working in yellow, or your new color. So we slipped that very first stitch purlwise when we came to it. And even if you're working on the knit side or in the round, you will slip the stitch purlwise. Alright, so now we flip the work and come back around to where we added that color. And then we simply, I'm pulling on that first color to tighten up its loop, and we just knit it or purl it depending on what side you're on, like normal. And the result is that slipped stitch pulls on that first row where the color was added ever so slightly, resulting in a jogless color change. Now it's kind of long here, you'll notice, but let me show you some jogless stripes I did earlier in the yellow. So right here, this row, you can see that very center row only has 3 stitches, and the rows on either side have 4, but yet they look all lined up. That's because that stitch right there that we slipped is pulling that first stitch up, resulting in a jogless stripe. Now you'll notice, looking at this swatch, all these rows of jogless all in the same spot. It's like a little puckery and stuff, but when you block your knitting and pull on it this way just a skosh, it blocks completely jogless. So super simple, it's just a slip stitch and you end up without jogs in your knitting.